Uh-huh.
So we're going to get started. I know we have a lot of other people who are going to join us tonight, but because you are all here, you are the important people. And I would love to introduce our guest tonight of our speaker series, Chad Busick. I met him at a Rotary meeting and he was really, really impressed me. And so just a little introduction and some things about Chad that you should know. So he's the owner of Championship Mindset, and he works with both corporate and athletic teams. He's a master facilitator with advanced sports technology, working with college teams at the D1, D2, and D3 levels, as well as high school and competitive teams of various sports. Just going to let some more people in here. In addition, Chad is a certified trainer for the Power of Positive Leadership training with the John Gordon Companies. He is the co-host of Championship Mindset podcast, as well as the author of a new book, The Rock Tumbler, which you see there in the banner in the background. I can't wait to read that, Chad. Along with his wife, Jennifer, of almost 25 years, they have two daughters and are longtime residents of North County, San Diego. Thank you all for being here tonight, and let's welcome Chad.
Awesome. Rachel, thank you for that introduction. I'm going to bring you out on tour with me when I go on tour, and you can just say that all the time for us. So that'd be awesome. But thank you so much for joining us today. I know it's, late in the afternoon, it's Thursday, all of those things, but I hope that you'll get something out of our time together. So much about what we're going to talk about today is getting people to think differently. And I think back to what we've gone through and what we're still going through over the last 10 months or so. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, but we want to get people to think differently. And I don't know about you, but I absolutely can't stand this term social distancing. It's the wrong term. It's physical distancing. And just because we're physically apart doesn't mean we can't be socially connected. And in fact, we need to be more socially connected now because we are physically apart. So thankfully, through vehicles like Zoom and all these other ways that we can be connected. And it's awesome. I know prior to March of last year, I probably did a grand total of 2 Zoom sessions with teams and groups that I've worked with. Now, since March, I've done well over 50, close to 100 of them. And yes, there are some challenges, and we can always look at the challenges, but I want people to look at the opportunities. The opportunities connect. So, as we turn the page, it's crazy to think that we're just in the last couple of days of January of 2021. And I was amazed as we started to look at turning the calendar from 2020 to 2021, just how much negativity was in the world around the year 2020. So many people were so quick just to get to the next thing. And the post in the media and the social media, 2021's terrible, throw it away, burn it, do all of these things. And I think when we have that attitude, we kind of miss the point. We don't want to waste the experiences that we've gone through for 2020, even though we may not have asked for them and certainly wouldn't like to repeat them. We want to understand that 2020 still offers lessons for us to learn and to grow from. So that's what we're going to really focus on today. I'm going to share a few thoughts with you guys, and then towards the end, we'll open it up for some questions and talk a little bit more about how we can help you guys out. But I want to start with some stories of resilience because that's really what we need right now and what we're dealing with. And think about going back to 2020. Everyone said 2021 is going to be a new year. It's going to be amazing. Uh, we didn't even get through 1 week in 2021, and we had events at the Capitol and all these other things going on. So if you're thinking that it's just going to be better, the only thing I can promise you is probably more change. So how we adapt, how we handle that matters. So let's talk about some stories of resilience. Show of hands here. How many people like Starbucks? Right? Absolutely. Love Starbucks. I'm going to tell you a story about Starbucks in just a minute. But Gallup did a study years ago, and they asked people about the worst moments in their lives and the best moments in their lives. And the interesting thing that they found that there was an 80% correlation directly between those two events. That somehow the worst events in our lives often lead us to the best things in our lives if we can stay positive and we can stay the course. And I got that from the Power of Positive Leadership in the John Gordon Group, right? It's a great read that we can really lean into. And I was fortunate, I was on a call earlier today with the John Gordon Group and talking through just being positive through this year. So I told you about Starbucks. Did you know that Starbucks didn't open its fifth store? Now, believe me, there's 5 stores in a single parking lot these days, but they didn't open their fifth store until 13 years into existence. 13 years to get to store number 5. How about this one? Walmart. Walmart, one of the biggest companies in the world, right? It took them 7 years to open their second store. Okay. Stories of resilience. How about this one? Prior to selling a single book, Dr. Seuss was rejected by 27 publishers. And then he went on to sell 600 million copies. Okay. Here's another one. Pat Summitt, legendary coach at Tennessee for women's basketball, one of the best coaches ever. Took her 13 years to win her first championship. And Dabo Sweeney, who's hot in the media these days, and the job that he's done at Clemson, he lost 15 out of his first 34 games, and then he went on to win 2 national championships. And probably the best example is the legendary coach John Wooden, who would arguably be the best coach ever. It took him 15 years to win his first championship. So good things take time, and we need to understand that as we're going through this. I'm going to share my screen with you for this next one. I'm going to share a name with you that none of you have probably ever heard of. In fact, I'll give $20 if anybody's ever heard of this guy's name. Guy's name's Karoli Takis. Nope, nobody, right? That's why I love stories like this. So Karoli Takis was a sharpshooter in the Hungarian army in the early 1930s. And in 1936, he was preparing for the Olympics, and he was one of the best shooters in the world. But he wasn't allowed to compete in the Olympics because he wasn't enlisted. He wasn't an officer yet. So he wasn't allowed, even though he was one of the best. So he had to wait. And they changed the rules shortly after that. And he was preparing for the 1940 Olympics. And I'll show you a picture of him here. 1938, he has a severe accident where a grenade blows up in his hand, in his shooting hand. Okay? And he spends over a month in the hospital, completely destroyed his hand. And he was laying there and he decided a different path. So he taught himself how to shoot left-handed instead. And as he learned slowly and relearned how to shoot, he prepared for the 1940 Olympics. Well, if you know history, the 1940 Olympics were washed out because of World War II, as were the 1944 Olympics. So it wasn't until 1948, 12 years later, that he finally got his chance. And he won a gold medal shooting left-handed. Here's another picture of him as well. It's interesting. Both the pictures show him shooting left-handed. And then he came back 4 years later and backed it up with another gold medal. I love stories of resilience, people that overcome amazing obstacles. Okay? So let's talk about this. And I love this great book from Ryan Holiday, The Obstacle is the Way. You will come across obstacles in your life. Some will be fair and some will be unfair. And you will discover time and time again that what matters most is not these obstacles, but how you see them, how you react to them, and whether you keep your composure. You will learn that this reaction determines how successful you will be in overcoming or possibly even thriving because of them. That's what we want. We want people thinking differently. Okay, so I'm going to share. Rachel mentioned my new book that just came out in November. It's called The Rock Tumbler. The crazy thing about this book is I started writing this book about, I think, December of 2019, well before we knew anything of COVID. Okay, and so I do understand that many of you may not know what a rock tumbler is. So we're going to do a little education. You take rocks like this, just normal rocks, and you put them into a machine, a rock tumbler. You add water and you add grit, and then they spin 24 hours a day, 7 days a week throughout the process. Okay. And the idea behind this is that when we go into the rock tumbler, we experience those things, it can either chew us up, spit us out, and make us a shell of ourselves, or it can help shape and mold us into the people that we're meant to become. So when I set out to write the book, I bought a rock tumbler and started tumbling rocks. And what I came up with is the idea that I kind of based the book on these 2 ideas. First of all, is that how you view the world, and more importantly, how you interact with the world, greatly determines what you will get out of the world. Okay, so that was number 1. The second thing, and this is an important understanding, is that may we view our challenges or this pandemic not as something that we merely survive or that we just get through, but rather as an opportunity for continued growth, shaping and molding us into the people that we're meant to become. And I mean, think about how many times over the last 10 months you've heard, and maybe you even said it yourself, I just need to get through this. I just need to survive, whether it's the pandemic or any of the other things. There's got to be a better way. I was doing a session recently with a basketball team, and I love this quote. One of the captains on the team said, well, if you have to go through it, you might as well grow through it. And think about that. What is your attitude, your mindset towards this? Because certainly we're going through it, but we do see some people who are growing through it and becoming out even bigger and better on the other side. When I look back at 2020, it wasn't the year that I thought it was going to be. I was set up to have one of my best years ever doing speaking, working with teams, and pretty much overnight it all went away. But as I look back, I shifted, I changed my mindset. And I didn't let what I couldn't do get in the way of what I could do. So I shifted and I started doing sessions like this around our idea of take change by the hand. And I've done it with people all over the country, with teachers, with students, with athletes, with coaches, with entire athletic departments, getting them to think differently about this so that they can grow through this. And I also find it interesting that 2020 was the year that I published my first book, I started my first podcast, and I launched my website. The growth that happens. It wasn't the plan I thought, but looking back, I'm proud of what we were able to accomplish. And more importantly, the way that we were able to help others in what they were going through. So a few more things about this book, and then we'll move on. So it's a fable. It's about my friends Chip and Corey, who are two rocks that I find out on a run one day. I'm a runner and I've run every day during this pandemic, and it's been a huge help for me. Right. And so the way the book is put together is there's three parts. Right. So part A is the ingredients. Those are the things that go into the tumbler. Part B is the process. It's what happens throughout the process of this refining of the rocks. And part C is the results. And throughout that, there are 16 life lessons to conquer the world by becoming who you're meant to be. Each one of the steps, either the ingredients or the process, is a lesson in the book. It's a short read. As you can see, it's got illustrations. Probably take you less than an hour to read it. But the feedback that I'm getting has been amazing as what we're going through today. Okay, so here's what the rocks look like before they go in the tumbler. Here's what they look like when they come out. Nothing like they did when they went in. And we think about the world that we live in. How many people feel like they're living in a rock tumbler, right? I mean, think about that. We spend the majority of our lives either heading into, in the middle of, or coming out of a rock tumbler, whether that's in any other, whether it's our professional lives, our family lives, relationships, whatever it might be. So if we're going to spend this much time in the rock tumbler, maybe we should change our mindset towards the rock tumbler. Okay, so it's really based on a couple of ideas here. First of all, life is not about accepting or even embracing its challenges, but rather owning your journey. Far too many people are stuck in the past, but our past doesn't have to define our present or determine our future. And it's so important as I hear people, and I work with teams a lot on the athletic, and they have players that may be coming off the bench, and they say, we want them to accept their role. That's not good enough. I want them to own their role, right? Because even accepting has a part of passivity to it, right? It's just like you're accepting your fate. No, we're going to own this journey that we're on. And then it comes down to true truths. The first truth is your circumstances, whether good or bad, do not define who you are or who you live for. But how you respond to those circumstances will determine and reveal who you are and who you live for. And we think about that, right? Your circumstances, people get so wrapped up whether the circumstances are really, really good or really bad. The circumstances aren't there. The resilience, your response is everything. And the second truth is that when your identity is rock solid in who you are, the possibilities are endless in what you can become. But when you're focused on what you will become, there's an endless search for who you are. And I look around the world today, there are so many people searching for who they are because they put their identity in all these other things. So it presents an opportunity for us to think differently. Okay, so enough about the one or about the rock tumbler. We're going to move on because I think it's important this part of the year. Any of you heard of the one word, right? Any of you have a one word? Okay. Let me ask you the question the other way. How many people had a New Year's resolution, right? Okay. How many people still have that resolution, haven't given up on it yet, right? The studies show that I think it's close to 50% of the people don't make it past the month of January with their resolution. So the idea of one word, and this comes from a book that was written by John Gordon, Jimmy Page, and Dan Britton. And the idea is that instead of setting resolutions, pick a word, one word that you want to live into for this year. Now, this is my third or fourth year doing it. And I think it's interesting that when you pick a word, be careful. Little warning, the opportunities that you have to live into that word may be different than you thought it was. Last year, my word was relentless. Okay. Lived in that a little bit different than I thought I was going to live into it. Okay. But so my word this year is pursue. Okay. There are a lot of things vying for my attention with the companies that I'm working with, how I'm trying to grow my brand. There's a lot of things vying for the attention. I want to be intentional in the things I choose to pursue and not let those things choose me. Okay. So I also paired a verse with it here. My faith is important to me. So I put that with it. This is on my desk. It's in my car. It's a constant reminder for me to choose those things that I want to pursue. Okay. In addition to a one word, they actually talk about a life word. So a couple of years ago, I chose the word focus. You can see a theme here, right? Focus was my one word. It now became my life word. And so focus for me is an acronym, and it stands for family, others. So it starts with my family, being a good husband, father, first and foremost. Others, the people that I get to work with on the corporate side, the athletic side. The C is for Christ. Once again, my faith is important. It's got to be the center of it all for me, right? The U is for unseen, not putting my value in the things that other people define as important. And the S is for self, taking care of myself as well. So I filter everything I do through, it has to fit into one of these areas of my focus. Otherwise, it doesn't get my attention. Okay? I wrote in the book in one of the lessons that a lot of people would say that our attention, or I'm sorry, our time is our most valuable resource, right? Anybody heard that before? Our time is our most valuable resource, right? I disagree. Our most valuable resource is our undivided attention. And think about how little in the world today truly gets our undivided attention. We can blame, our cell phones for a lot of that and other things, right? So I challenge you to think about a one word. And as we transition, we're going to open it up for some questions here. I'd love to hear, some of you raised your hands. I'd love to hear what your one word is for this, for this year, and why you chose that one word, because I'm always interested in doing that and seeing that. Before I do that, I'm going to put up some ways that you can connect with me. You can connect with me through Twitter at @champ_mindset. Facebook and Instagram are the same, at Championship Mindset LLC. You can email me at chad@championshipmindset.org. And the website is championshipmindset.org as well.
Chad, that was awesome.
Thank you. I'm going to open up. What can I do? How can I help you? I'd love to hear from you guys. If you have one words, I'll leave that up there for just a second, and then I'll stop the share.
So what's really great is there are a lot of people on this today who are in a networking group with me. And we all pick a word every year and have been doing so for the last couple of years. So it's really great that you brought that up. But everyone who's on this, I really loved Chad's energy and his enthusiasm about life, and just really how, there's so many people who are out there who don't embrace the challenges the way that he did. So I just wanted to bring him on and have him encourage you tonight. So would anyone want to share their word and why they picked their word tonight, or ask Chad any questions? I know all of you have words, or at least a lot of you. Go ahead, Chris.
I'm a go first kind of guy, I guess. I'm going to turn my light on. My word for this year is expansion. It's my third year in business as an entrepreneur. And I've gone through Say Yes was my first year, and then Focus was the second year. And this year is where it's expanding, and it so far has been great. One thing I really like about your talk, Chad, I think life and God gives us all kinds of ironic metaphorical lessons. So like the rock tumbler is one, but another, I work with a client that is in the medical device field, and I've learned that the body does not normally heal properly unless it has been disturbed. And a lot of surgeons, a lot of rejuvenative medicine.
Oh, Chris, you're breaking up. I would love to hear what you're saying. Maybe you can type it into the chat for us.
For the body to be stimulated. That's okay. I'm uploading some big files. I'll let it go at that. I'll just listen, but thank you for that. It was really good. I appreciate it.
Thank you for that feedback. And Rachel makes a great point. If you don't feel comfortable or can't come off camera, you can type in the chat a question, or I see that Carolyn put in her word is clarity, right? Which is a great word, right? Who doesn't want some more clarity in their life? Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. What about you, Nyla? What's your word for the year? I know you've got one. So Nyla always puts together these fun little tokens at the end of the year. So this year she sent us a beautiful bookmark with our word of the year from last year. And then the year before that, there's Nina showing it right there.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's been a really fun, for us. So we thank you, Nyla, for that. So go ahead.
Of course. My word is intentional. And it's, I think you actually mentioned that word, Chad, when you were speaking. And it's really just to be intentional in everything from family, friends, faith, and my business, and just in everything I do. And so far, it's actually been pretty impactful. I'm being really good with my checklists, and anytime I have an intention to do something, I am putting it on a list and checking it off and not letting it drag on for weeks. So that's one of the ways I'm making it come to fruition, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing. I think one of the cool things I like about the one word is that we're all going to have off days, right? We're going to have days where we're just not a 10. We're just not where we need to be. And if we have it as a resolution, that becomes a day of failure, right? And instead, with the one word is that we take those bad days and we use them for fuel to move us forward into the next day. And what are we going to do tomorrow to make it better? I think that's really important. So, any other one words, or how about some questions? What can I answer for you?
Yeah, is there anyone who has questions for Chad or wants to share anything that's on their heart right now? Like Dr. Raj wants to share, or she's maybe typing. But it's really nice.
Rachel, first of all, thank you for inviting me to join you guys. And Chad, what a great presentation. I was just going to say, you made me think. I'm not normally given to thinking about one words. It's the usual traditional, New Year's resolution and what should we be doing. But last year has been such an unbelievable year for all of us, But as I tell my students, I'm a professor at Cal State San Marcos, but all of us are in this together, and we have suffered various degrees of personal loss and anxiety. And our students, we always think about them, many of them struggling without jobs. Rachel was so gracious enough to be a guest in one of our classes in the executives chair and spoke to them and inspired them. But as you were talking, I was furiously thinking about what my one word would be. I was kind of torn between two. One is gratitude and one is tranquility. So I don't know at this point which one I'll choose. All of last year, I've reminded myself to be grateful, and I keep telling my students and friends the same thing. Through all this, you have to be grateful for what we have and keep reminding yourself about it, either at the end of the day or when you're feeling particularly stressed out with things that keep happening, either in personal personal life or around. But also, I think moving on to tranquility, I think, mindfulness uh, practices and to some extent, the famous self-care. I think that's also a good goal to achieve because it's going to take a while to get any semblance of normalcy. It's not going to happen like this. So thank you for your presentation. Made one think of many issues.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And I would encourage you with the one word, don't rush it, right? Give it some thought, think about it, pray about, meditate on it, whatever about it. You will settle on that word. I mean, my word for me this year, I was like struggling. I didn't know what it was going to be. I literally woke up in the middle of the night on December 29th with this idea of pursue, right? It just kind of comes, and then you have those opportunities to live into it. And so give it a little time, give it a little space so that you really kind of settle on it. And then when you do, like I created the little picture of it, share it with other people. You let them know and look for those ideas. But, Raj, you talk about gratitude. That I can't overstate how important gratitude is right now. One of the things I mentioned on, well, I'll tell you the quick story. So a few years ago, one of my best friends, Josh, who got me to speak at the Rotary Club, he and I had run, a couple different marathons, half marathons. And so, but I'd set a goal, and the goal was I wanted to get in shape, right? And so I'd, run for a while, then I'd take a week day off, then it was a week, then it was a month, right? So then I set a goal that I'm going to run a half marathon. That'll solve the problem. So then I set the goal. I ran a 3-month training program, ran the half marathon, and then said, I'm going to take a day off. Then that was a week and that was a month. So that didn't work. So then I said, okay, I know I'll run a marathon. So then it was a 6-month training program, set the goal, met my goal. I'm going to take a day off. It was a week. It was a month. You get the story. So a few years ago, my buddy Josh challenged me. He read an article about running streaks. And it was very simple. The goal became to run every day 3 miles or 27 minutes for an entire year straight, 365 days without missing a single day. So I did it. I met my goal. Do you know what I did on day 366?
Went for a run.
I went for a run, right? Went for a run. So we're a couple months away. So April of this year will be 10 years in a row without missing a single day of running. Now, that is a lot, right? It's over 3,000 days of running continuously, right? Now, here's the thing that I'm most proud about. Not that I've run every day for 10 years in a row, but it's all the days in the past that I wouldn't have run, that I would have taken the day off. And what it's done for me through this period of time with COVID, it has been everything, because I know every day, 30 minutes, I get out, I connect with nature, I do my runs, and I can tell you my book, The Rock Tumbler, I would say probably 80 to 85% of that book was written through the thoughts and the ideas on my runs. And they've actually done studies that show that if you're struggling with a problem at work, or you're having a problem, an issue with a relationship, or whatever it might be, they've done studies that if you go for a walk, that when you walk, it requires just enough of your your left brain, right, in order that you don't fall down, that you don't get hit by a car or anything like that, that it opens up the other side of your brain for all this creativity. And I know from experience that my book would not have turned out if it wasn't for my daily runs, going and creating, and then I'd come back and I would type it up some more and write a little more. But when you do that, so getting out in nature, John Gordon talks about a gratitude walk, just walking and saying, what are the things you're thankful for? Because yes, 2020 was crazy, but we still have so much to be thankful for. I mean, start with the fact that we live in San Diego. I mean, my daughters go to school in Chicago. They were calling me this morning saying, we have to go to soccer practice outside, and it's 12 degrees outside right now, right? So gratitude, getting out in nature, so important. Thank you for sharing that. Other questions?
I want to hear from Jason because I know that he has something to say.
Yes.
So first of all, the thing about living in San Diego really hurt, kind of, because I lived in San Diego last year at this time, but now I live in South Dakota. So
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
like in the same boat as your daughters are.
I've got lots of, my wife has lots of family in South Dakota in Sioux Falls. So I've been there sometimes in the winter. It's cold.
And
Yeah, I
Jason,
live by Sioux Falls. You know exactly what's going on. But anyway, so I'm curious, say you have a athlete with a lot of talent. They're just naturally talented. What's the biggest challenge that a talented athlete faces in succeeding?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. You know, the number one thing I see with athletes, and this is from the younger youth level, even all the way up to the Division I level. And there's a good book by KDK and Claire Shipman called The Confidence Code. And it's written by two female authors. It's four females. But in there, they talk to Coach Tiabo, who was the coach of the Washington Mystics for the WNBA. And he talked about how he had two players on his team that were the elite of the elite. I mean, they made it to the pinnacle of being all-stars in the WNBA. Anything that he said they struggled with more than anything was confidence. I mean, that's crazy to me. Confidence, and they're already at the pinnacle. And it's so important, and especially, you know, on the female athlete side, the self-talk, the perfectionism, those things get in the way. But that confidence is so important. And so that's a lot of what we do with athletes when we're working with them, is we want to get them to be confident. So we see so many people, whether it's in corporate or in athletics, that they go out and they perform either in their job or on the athletic field, trying not to make a mistake. Well, what happens when we perform trying to not make a mistake?
make a mistake.
We make mistakes, right? So, for example, think about this. Don't think about a banana right now. What are you thinking about?
Banana.
A banana, right? So, of course, you're thinking about a banana, right? I told you, see, our brains don't work really well with the words don't and not. That's why when you have kids and you tell them, don't forget your homework, what do? They forget their homework, right? So we need to use our language properly so that we're speaking into them. Remember these things, that type of thing. Don't. So when we go out and we perform, when we don't want to have a result, we're so focused on the result, we need to focus on the process. And it's one of the things I actually pull across in the book, that we all want good results, but the way to get good results is to stay focused on the process. It's this moment, it's this task, whether that's in your profession, whether that's on the field, whether it's in your relationships. It's this conversation that matters most, not what happened in the past. Does that help, Jason?
Yeah, that gives me goosebumps. And just one more, I'm kind of opposite question. So I got the pictures about the rock tumbler, but you had a slide before the rock tumbler that mentioned a book and about obstacles.
Yeah. So Ryan Holiday wrote a book. It's called The Obstacle is the Way. And it's a short read. In fact, it's right here. So it's really short, easy read, but it's really the timeless art of turning trials into triumphs is really what it's about. And we think about how often in life that we try to avoid the obstacles, right? Think about driving. It's something as simple as driving in a car and they put a speed bump in the middle of the road. And what do? You try to drive around the speed bump so only two wheels hit, not four wheels, right? I mean, that's our nature. We try to avoid those things. And the idea behind his book is that the obstacle, going through the obstacle, growing through the obstacle is the way.
Oh, that's so good.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, and I told everyone, does anyone have anything else? Because I promised you I would have you out of here by 5:15. If anyone would like to connect with Chad, how again can they get in touch with you?
I'll share my screen back for that. And I will tell you that you can find the book on Amazon. It's also on Barnes and Noble. It's available in hard copy, paperback, ebook, wherever books that you'd see that. It's print to order, so just order it through there. I think Amazon may have some copies in that you can order as well. And then that's on there. I'll finish with one quick story, and then we'll finish up. I think I shared this on the Rotary as well. It's one of my favorite stories, and it's something that I think illustrates what we're going through so much right now. Years ago, a psychologist did a study on rats, and he wanted to see how long rats could swim. So it was really simple. He dropped them in the water and he started the timer, and then he just watched. And what he found is some of the rats, they gave up and they drowned in as little as 4 minutes. Some of them lasted a little longer. They made it to like 9 or 10 minutes. So he thought that was pretty interesting. And instead, he decided he was going to do the study a second time. This time he dropped them in the water. He started the timer and he watched them carefully. And just about the time the rats were going to go underwater and drown, they were going to give up. He picked them up. He held them. He rescued them. And then he dropped them back in the water. I know, poor rats. Ladies, that's not the point of the story. Every time I tell this story, I can see by the tiles of talent that we have here. Ladies are like, oh, those poor rats. It's not the point. Okay. He drops them back in the water. Do you know how long they swam when they went back in the water the second time? Maybe 30 minutes, maybe an hour, maybe 2. Some of the rats swam as long as 60 hours. They were giving up in as little as 4 minutes. And now they're swimming as much as 60 hours. Why? Because they had hope. Something changed in that moment. Somebody intervened and rescued them just for that little bit of time. And they learned and they figured that if I just kept my head above water, if I just kept swimming, maybe something would change. Maybe someone would intervene my circumstances, right? That's what we need right now. We need hope. And in this moment, we need to be hope agents for other people around us. And when we're having those bad days, we just need to keep swimming because there is hope. We have vaccines now moving forward. We are going to get through this. And the question is when we do get through this, where are you going to be on that scale? Did you really grow through this time? So keep swimming and bring hope to the people around you. That's what we need. So Rachel, thank you again for having me on. Really enjoyed it. You guys are awesome. And if there's anything I can do to help you guys, please don't hesitate to reach out. And I'd love to connect with you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chad. Can everybody give him a round of applause? Thank you. We really appreciate you being with us. This will be sent out to our entire database as well. We recorded it. We thank you. Thank you everyone who joined us and taking part in the discussion. We need to be hope agents. So Chad, thank you. If you'd like to have him come speak for you or anyone, please feel free to reach out to him. Everyone have a great evening. Thank you again. And please join us next month for our next wonderful speaker. Good night.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
How do you get it through the meetup or through email or through what?
The book?
No, the recording.
I
Oh,
will-
Rachel can answer that for you.
Barbara, if you put your email in the chat, I will make sure that you get that recording.
Okay, doing it right now.
Wonderful. This is a lot of fun. Thank you everyone for joining us. Chad, you were amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Right. I will go ahead and save this.
We gotta wait for Barbara's email. It's
Yeah,
coming. I
wait
can
for
see her
Barbara's
typing.
email. Yeah. If you want to jump off, Chad, that's fine. And I'll reach out to you. I really appreciate you being.
Awesome. It
Thank
was
you so
fun.
much.
I enjoyed it. Good group, some good questions. And thank you again for reaching out.
All right. Have a great night.
Thank you. Take care. Bye, Barbara. Bye, Jody.
So you got the email. Huh?
I do. I need to just save this chat. And I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful evening.
Thank you.